I now give the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Retno Marsudi, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia. Minister, you have the floor.
Mr. President, thank you for organizing this important meeting. I also thank the Secretary General and the briefers for their insight. Colleagues, last year, I presided over the open debate commemorating the 20th anniversary of the Protection of Civilian Agenda and the 70th anniversaries of the Geneva Convention. Indonesian message then remains relevant during this COVID-19 pandemic. The Council must continue exercising its moral weight to protect civilians in armed conflict. Indeed, the pandemic does not stop conflict from happening in many parts of the world. Violent attacks increased by 37% between mid-March and mid-April in sub-Saharan Africa. Armed conflict also displaced at least 661,000 people over the past 2 months. COVID-19 gives extra burden to the people in conflict-affected countries and complicates our effort to protect civilians. Mr. President, against this backdrop, I have 3 key messages. First, it is important to provide humanitarian power. This pandemic is a momentum to put the brake on the fightings. Laying down weapons would ensure unhindered delivery of humanitarian assistance, create a space for credible peace process, and allow us to focus on fighting COVID-19. For this reason, Indonesia reiterates the Secretary General's appeal for immediate global ceasefire in all conflict situations, including in Afghanistan. Together with Norway, Germany, Qatar, and Uzbekistan, Indonesia launched a joint statement to ceasefire in Afghanistan, to support ceasefire in Afghanistan. Global ceasefire requires political will, putting aside animosity and the unity of the Council. Second point, it is very critical to ensure compliance with international humanitarian law at any time. All parties to conflict must honor their obligation. Civilians are not target. The greater protection must be given for those who are already in their situation: women, children, refugees, and displaced persons. Continued attack on healthcare facilities in conflict-affected countries, impairing further their already fragile capacity to fight COVID-19. And this has to stop. Palestine is one of the textbook examples where compliance to international humanitarian law is desperately needed now.
You are the only participant.
Continuous imminent annexation and the COVID-19 pandemic has struck Palestine at once. The world and this council is indebted for the Palestinian right over its territory in line with 1967 border. Now, we must not let further annexation happen on various standpoints, since it will threaten regional stability and security, it will undermine a two-state solution, and it will throw away all international consensus and parameters on the issue of Palestine, and it will shift the world focus away from fighting against COVID-19 pandemic. My third point, it is also crucial to place women empowerment at the heart of the protection of civilians. Indonesia is a strong proponent of community engagement in protecting civilians. Local communities particularly women, must become part and parcel of the development and implementation of protection of civilian strategy. As agent of protection of civilian, women have greater access to communities. They are essential enablers to build trust and confidence, and women help prevent and reduce conflict and confrontation. Inclusive participation of women would also benefit any peace process, as they have unique perspective to offer. Empowering women means empowering the whole nation. This is evident when I led Indonesia female leaders to have a dialogue with Afghan women in Kabul last February to encourage their greater contribution in peace process. Indonesia-Afghan Women Solidarity Network was launched during my visit to Afghanistan. Later this year, Indonesia aimed to establish Southeast Asian Network of Women Peace Negotiators and Mediators. Indonesia is also committed to increasing the number of female peacekeepers, contributing to gender parity amongst the Blue Helmet. There are 154 Indonesian female peacekeepers on the ground now, all of which will contribute to the implementation of community engagement and protection of civilian mandate on the mission. Mr. President, COVID-19 is unlike any global crisis in the 75 years history of the UN. However, during this dark moment of our time, we cannot neglect the imperative to protect civilians in armed conflicts. After all, the United Nations was established to save succeeding generations from the source of war. And protecting civilians is one of the most important tasks to prevent us from failing. I thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Minister.